Welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be turning this stone into a piece of jewelry, so stick with me and watch to the end, and I will be back and we will start this little project. Okay, welcome back. And so now what we're going to do, we're going to take this stone, if you remember, that we polished in the last video. This is a piece of quartz with some of the limestone still in it. Maybe a little bit of iron in with that limestone. But we're going to take this and make a pendant out of it. And first thing we're going to do is take some 20 gauge square copper wire. I've cut these at about 10 inches. I'm not as precise on what I cut, but most of my stones, 10 inches of wire is usually plenty. We need to straighten them out a little bit, and you can just do this between your fingers, or if you need to use a rag to save your fingers. But just kind of straighten the wire out as best you can, because what we want to do, we're going to lay them side by side because it's square. We're going to lay it side by side and then make our basic frame. And for the frame, we're going to, well, first, I'm getting ahead of myself here. What we need to do is cut, we're going to cut some painter's tape, and we're just going to make a couple of little, couple of little strips. And what these are going to do, these are going to hold the ends of our wire bundle together. So what I'm going to do here is we're going to pick up our bundle, just straighten them up, on the table here. Get those ends. Here we go. We're going to get those ends nice and squared up, and we're going to stick our tape on there to make a flag here, and then run them through your fingers, trying to keep them together as best you can. We're going to come down here to the other end and do the same thing. We're going to make another, we're going to just lay the tape across there and make another flag so that it looks like that on both ends. So now we can go to the kind of the middle of our bundle, and now we're going to go to our there's the label. Our Rio Grande half round copper wire. This is 20 gauge. So now we're going to, and I'm going to leave it on the spool here. But what I want to do is bring the end of it off the spool, and I'm going to hold it, the flat side of the half round, I want to hold it up against the, let's see how well you can see that. I want to take it and, this stuff is not cooperating with me. I apologize. Let's get a pair of, I need the cutters, so let's get a pair of pliers to kind of hold it. Unfortunately, my work surface is not terribly smooth, but That's okay here. I just got to get something underneath that spool. So now what I'm going to do is take the half round. Let's see here, get it in here where you can see it. And with the flat side of it, I'm going to hold it with my thumb, and I'm just going to gently wrap. You got to be careful that you don't bunch up the square wires. But we're just going to wrap that tail around like that. There. So now you look something like this. And then we're going to take, now I like these Casual Comfort, they're Casual Comfort wire wrapping pliers, but I like that flat end just for we want to gently squeeze down our loops that go around the frame here. And then once that's done, we start continuing, and I hold the wire between my forefinger and thumb, and that way I kind of use my thumb to guide. I can kind of use those fingers to kind of guide the wire, and then I can twist the frame just a little bit with my other hand and keep those wires as close together as I can. If they get a little spaced apart, you can just press them down. But what we're going to do here is just go around. Now if you're using an oval stone, it's not quite as important how far you go with your wraps here. But because I've got a square stone, I've got to kind of make sure I want my wraps to go from corner to corner here. But on an oval stone, say we were going to do this one, it wouldn't matter. I could probably stop there and it'd be fine. But being that this is a square stone or a rectangular stone, I want to make sure my wraps are as close to the corners as possible. So I've got just a little bit more to go here. And what I'll do, instead of measuring or marking on the metal and everything, I'm just going to make a few more wraps. And then I just check against my stone. And since I'm at a good spot here, we're going to continue a few more wraps. And even if I go a wrap or two or so outside the wire, it's okay. So now we're going to tap these back down a little bit more. And check it against our stone once again. And I'm about one or two wraps. I'm one wrap on either side, so that's fine. So now I'm going to take my flush cutters and we're going to cut the wire. And you want your cut end. You want both of those cut ends on the inside. I'm going to tap that down. We're going to tap that down so it's nice and flush. Kind of squeeze them in. And now since I've got this little piece here, we're going to cut that off as well. And we want the cut ends on the same side because that's going to end up being the back side of our frame. So now I get that tapped down. And now that's got our frame pretty well locked in place. So now what I want to do is take the stone. Let's get the wire back out of the way. Okay, I want you to be able to see this. So what you would do is place your stone on your work surface, but so you can see what I'm actually doing, I'm going to do this kind of in the air. So this is a harder way to do it, but I'm just going to bend my wire up around those corners, keeping that as close as I can here. And then the other way you can do it is to take your pliers and make a good sharp bend there. And then I'm going to just kind of, nice thing about working in copper is that it's very, very soft until it will eventually work harden. But okay, let's check that now. That looks good. So now what I want to do is I want to hold my stone in there as tight as I can against the bottom, because as you can imagine, what we've got to do now is we're going to bend our wire up here at the top of the stone. So I'm going to take my pliers and I'm going to bend it into about 45 degrees. Same thing with the other side here. Sorry, but we're going to get the pliers up there and bend it in. So you want this to meet pretty much right in the middle. And then I'm going to take my pliers here, and we're going to get that right there, and we're going to squeeze it so that it bends together, and that looks pretty good like that. So now we're here. So now we can take the stone back out, and what I want to do now is bring the half round wire back in, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to wrap again. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to make a tail here. And we're going to wrap that tail around the bottom of where we bent the where we bent the wires there at the top. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this around until I've got a tail. And this is where you might want a pair of smaller pliers. So I have these, and apparently my kitten has decided that it's playtime. I'll apologize now for that. Now these I picked up at Hobby Lobby. They're just a really fine flat plier, flat nose plier. But what we're going to do, we're going to take what's left of that tail, and I want to tuck it in just underneath the frame here, because I don't want any, it's going to stick out just a little bit. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to try to trim off just a little bit of that. So I'm going to just take and trim just a very little bit. You can see I did not focus. Come on. I did not take much. But since it was a little long, we got to do that. Now we're going to go back and fold that. Now, get my pliers in there a little bit. I want to bend that in, and then I'm going to take my pliers and bend that down just like that. So now there's nothing poking out the back. So now I can take this, and I'm going to take my my wrap making pliers, or you can use any kind of flat pliers like that. And we have that part. So now what I want to do is we're going to make our bales. So I want to separate these. I want to separate out the wires here just a little bit, because now we can take the flags back off. Those flags are just there to hold those wires together, and it helps keep. Unfortunately, I've been grinding a lot of stone, so I have no fingernails to pull those off. But now then, since I want this side to be my front, so I'm going to take and separate out the front 3 wires here, and we're going to bend those down and out of the way. Same thing on the other side. Get that flag off and hold your frame pretty firmly, because otherwise it will probably try to it may misshape on you. Yeah, see, I've misshaped the front because of the way I've been pulling. So, but we can kind of fix that later. Here we go. There, we got it. Okay, so now same thing. We're going to take those front 3 wires, bend those out of the way, and that leaves us 2 wires up the back. So what we're going to do here is pull the wire, because since I didn't cut it, we're going to pull that wire from around the neck there, and now we're going to bring it onto those 2 wires, and we're going to start wrapping it just like we did at the bottom of the frame. Try to keep these 2 wires side by side and flat. And if they do start to bunch up like it just did on me here, we can take, let's see, which way do those need to go here? This is the fun part. I'm going to take my pliers and push these. Okay, I've got to see now. This is what I like to be able to show you, some of the things that can go wrong. So I've had to unwrap it, push that down a little bit more, and I'm going to rewrap, trying to keep. Now see, now I just did it again. There we go. Kind of use my pliers to straighten them out a little bit. Bring those down. And now I kind of want to bring that wire around and push them down with my thumb. And that will help. So now I got to bend these wires just a little bit more, because they keep catching my half round. And now we can continue around. So now see how I've got kind of a messy looking space there. What we're going to do is push those down. And now that I'm far enough along, I'm going to press down on the, I'm going to press down. You don't have to press very hard, but just press it down so that it holds those wires side by side better. And now we can kind of go a little faster. And I want to make a decent sized bale, so I'm going to go about a 1/2 or 3/4 of an inch roughly. I like a good sized bale because I want to be able to make sure my necklace, chain, or cord, or whatever I'm going to use can go through the bale. And we're going to straighten that out just a little bit, because I've got a little bit of crookedness going on there. There we go. And I'm going to give it one more little press all the way down. So now, if you're looking at your frame with the back side up and kind of to you, you can see where these 3 wires come apart. Now you've got this space. So what we're going to do is bend that forward, and then what I want to do is take these wires that aren't wrapped, and we're going to bend those forward about 45 degrees. That'll help keep those wraps. Well, I went 90, but that's okay. So now we're going to take our step bail making pliers, and I'm going to go in here. I want it right about there, and then I'm just going to bend that bail all the way across. So now we look about like that. And if I don't like the bail like that, I can bring my bail making pliers in and pull that up and around till it's a little closer to where I want it to be. Now I'm going to pull these side wires up and get those out of the way again, because now we've got to go back around, and I've got it twisted, so I've got to untwist my wire there. There we go. So now with those out of the way, we're going to go around that bail again, but this time we've got to catch these 2 wires. So we're going to go around like so. We're just going around it until we get to the bottom of where we've wrapped before. And just like before, I'm going to straighten out my wires a little bit. Just like before, we're going to go in and cut. Now we're going to cut our wire. And I'm going to cut it. I want to cut it down pretty close to the frame here, because just like before, what we're going to do is take our flat nose pliers, take that in. I apologize for being so shaky. I'm not very good at doing this with a camera in front of me. But we're going to take that in, tuck it in right up to the frame, push that in, and give that a little press. We're going to come up here to where we wrapped with the bail and give that a press. And now our frame looks like that. We're going to take and cut. Actually, no. I think what we're going to do, we're going to pull this tail out right here. And I want to take my flat pliers, because I need a pretty sharp. We'll need a pretty sharp bend here. And then I'm going to cut. Okay, I'm bent like that. So now I want to go in and I want to cut those tails off. And I'm going to cut them very short here. So now our frame, I apologize here. Hopefully I get better at this, but there's what our frame looks like now. So now what we can do is go in with our flat nose or our wrap pliers here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to squeeze those in right up. Okay, you can see that my wires aren't exactly cooperating here, but that's okay, because since it's dead soft, again, it's dead soft wire, so we can get in there and straighten those out just a little bit and just slowly press them in, straighten them out as we have to, and just keep pressing those down until they are up against that bail. And I kind of want it in under. but I don't want to really deform. I'm deforming my frame, unfortunately. But that can all be straightened out here. Okay, well, I've deformed things a little bit, but we'll fix that too. But there's what we look like now. The wires are in under the bale, so they're not gonna catch as easily. And you could always take, before you bend them up, you can always take like a small jeweler's file, and you can always go in there and do a little, kind of just go around and take off that burr. So now, yeah, I don't feel anything poking me. And so this is we're still working on the back here. I'm going to center that up under the bale just a little bit. So now what we're going to do, we want to place our stone in there, but before we do that, we've got to be able to capture it so it'll sit in there. So we're going to take the very back wire. You can see I've got the very back wire, and we're going to go just a little ways up from the bottom and bend that in. Same thing on the other side. We're going to go to the bottom just a little bit from the bottom part of the frame, bend that in, and what you want to do is hold that up here to the top. So you look like that. Now when we turn that over and place the stone inside the frame, what it's going to do, see, I've deformed it a little bit so it's not cooperating quite as well. But we'll work with it a little bit here. And there we go. We have, okay, now that that's in, what we want to do is take the top wire now and pull it up with your fingernail or whatever you have. And we're going to do the same on the front. Now I'm not a huge fan of symmetry. I like my frame to look a little more organic. So I'm going to hold everything up here at the top corner, and I'm going to bring that frame in just a touch. And now we've got our frame held in. It's, as you can see, that stone's not going to fall out of there. So now we can take these top wires now and do some decorative stuff with it if you'd like. So let's take this one and we'll go around the front. So I've got that little loop there, and then, apologize for that, our little kitten she has apparently had her nap and has plenty of energy. So she is trying to play with my stones, my wire, anything that moves. But anyway, we're going to get, I want to bring this up so that it comes up and around the frame pretty tight. And we're just going to keep bringing that in like so. And I'm going to bring that in and loop it around again. And again, just try to keep it as tight up against the frame as we can. So I'm going to bring my pliers around here to the back and try to pull that as tight as I can. So I've got two loops going around. I think I'm going to go one more. So I'm going to bring that around tight again. Because I think if I try to go too much more, the way I'm manhandling this wire, I'm afraid that it's going to get bent out of shape and start to look kind of bad here. So now that we're here, I'm going to go one more time around the top, and I'm going to cut, let's see, I'm going to cut that pretty short, because what I'm going to do is we're going to tuck that in under the frame. So now then we're going to take this around and just take the pliers and kind of work it like so, and then we're going to tap down those wires so that it holds the frame together a little bit better. And there we have that side done. So now what I'm going to do, I need to straighten this back out a little bit. So I'm going to take my other pliers here and just bring that around like so. Now I'm going to take my other wire from the other side. I'm going to take the front wire from the other side, and we're going to go around again. Kind of bring that up just a little bit so that we're going just like we did the first time. We're going to take that wire and go around. I need to grab that end, kind of make a loop out of it so that it goes up and through, and pull that as tight we're going to pull that as tight as we can. She knocked off one of my pins and is now batting it around. Life with cats is never dull, let me tell you. Especially when one's a kitten. Okay, now we're going to just keep going around. I want to make, just like we did on the other side, I'm going to go around 3 times, keeping that as tight as I can to the frame. And it looks like I'm going to have just enough. So I'm going to tap this down like so. I'm going to go ahead and do my tapping now. And I've got just a little bit of a tail sticking up, so that should be just enough to push around there. And I'm going to just gently get that to go around my frame. And kind of take and press that in. Until I can get that little piece to go. And there we go. think? I want to just slowly coax that around. And now we look a little something like this. Well, excuse me a minute, I've got to go break up a cat and a dog fight. I'm back. Crisis averted. Apparently the kitten decided to get a little too close to our dogs, because I've also got corgis, and a couple of my corgis are a little older, and so they don't care to play as much as the kitten would like. And sometimes she gets a little too rambunctious with them. So now we can do a couple of things here. We can either take and do some decorative wraps with these. I kind of like the simplicity of what I've got so far. So I think I'm just going to take my frame and just kind of bend it in just a little bit more. So I have something a little more like that. Same thing on this side. I'm going to bend that a little more like so. And then what we can do is take a pair of pliers and just wiggle those, and they'll break off. And what that does, that when as the wire breaks, it creates well, it should have. What it does, it creates a little hook, and what it'll usually do is break down inside, but this time it didn't do that. Unless that's my front. No, that's that side wire. So I'll grab that little tail there and just until that little bit breaks off. And now you can rub your finger across there and you can feel that there's no sharp points. I want to flatten that out just a little bit. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. We're going to grab it as close. I'm going to do this from the back so that I'm not grabbing this part up here. And what I'm going to do is just, we're going to, again, you want to get as close to where it's wrapped as you can, and just wiggle it back and forth, and it'll, there. And it will eventually break off. Now see, this time it didn't. Apparently I wasn't close enough, because you can see I've got those two little hooks up there. So I'm going to take my other pliers here and try again. I'm going to get up there. I want to get up as close as I can to that where we've got those wraps and work those. There we go. And I've still got a little bit of a tail in there. And it's what I've done. I've pulled my frame in as I've done that. So you have to be careful with that too. So I've got to fix my frame just a little bit. And what I'm going to do is just use my fingernails, or what's left of them, and just kind of press things and pull things down into place. What I probably should have done was put a wrap up here at the top corners, but I was hoping I wouldn't need to. But I'm going to hold that frame like that, and I'm going to, there, that one just, it was already ready to break off. So now I'm just going to go back in, give things a final, we'll give everything kind of a final squish without grabbing the little decorative part there at the top. And I'm going to make sure I don't have anything poking. And we're just going to do a little tweaking, straighten out the bail, press things down so that they stay nice and tight. But there we go. There's our finished piece. So now all I need for it is my necklace chain, and it just so happens that I do have copper chain, which I purchased from Amazon, and we'll just put, as we do some final tweaks here, there. Okay, everything is where I want it to be, mostly. I want to squeeze, and you go through, and I just go through and find some places where, well, maybe this needs pressed together a little bit, maybe this needs a little straightening out. Maybe that needs to come in just a little bit. But once I'm happy with everything, now we've got our finished pendant. And so now, unfortunately, I think the kitten was playing with some of my necklace chains. Here we go. Well, and she's played with it enough that she's there we go. Okay. So when I buy my necklace chains, they come in, they come in a bundle like this. And I just buy these off of Amazon. I typically use a 24-inch chain because it's easier to shorten them than to try to find some chain to lengthen them. But we'll just take a chain off of the bundle. And now we're ready to add our chain. And we just go through the loop, and sorry I'm doing this off camera, but I'm not used to doing this stuff in front of a camera yet. And there we go. We've got a nice copper chain, and it is on our pendant now, and that's how I work. If you want to get into making pendants, I strongly give a shout out to Oksana Crafts on YouTube. She has some amazing tutorials. There are a number of other artists that are far better. Me personally, I like just a basic frame. I don't go for like the highly decorative frames, just because I like it simple, because I want the stone to be the star. So if you've watched my video to this point and this far, I thank you very much. All I ask that you would subscribe, comment on other content that you might want to see. If you want to see more jewelry making, or something else lapidary related, cabochon making, anything like that, please absolutely comment and give this video a like. Share it with all your friends and family, and help me grow my channel if you would, please. I appreciate it a lot. And until the next video, thank you very much and goodbye.